Hello everyone, this is Dave Lipscomb, Director of Strategic Communications for PBI. Welcome back to Corporate Pro Bono's CLO and Pro Bono podcast series. This week's episode features Ron Bell, General Counsel and Secretary at Yahoo. We spoke with Ron about Yahoo's fascinating history, how pro bono is a natural fit with the values and the culture of Yahoo, and some of his most rewarding experiences in pro bono work. Ron talked about the incredible need for assistance, the tremendous benefits of providing services not only to the clients, but to the volunteers and the department, and his desire to collaborate more with legal departments and others. We hope you enjoyed the interview. Hi, Ron. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Just to get started, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, your legal department, and its pro bono program?
Sure. My story is easy to tell. I've been at Yahoo for the last 17 years, and the last 4 as general counsel. I joined when the company was quite small. I think I was the 10th or 11th lawyer in our department. Came over from another great company, Apple, what was then called Apple Computer, where I was the lawyer on the hardware side behind most recently behind the PowerBook division. And then before that, I was in private practice in Chicago, which is also where I graduated from law school at the University of Chicago. The department has grown over those 17 years. It's now about 160 people. It's truly global. We have people on the ground in the Americas, both North America and Latin America, in Asia, across Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, India, and across a wide swath of Europe. We used to be in the Middle East, but the company has since closed its operations there. So we're truly a global operation, and that's really the perspective we bring to our pro bono work as well. We started the program about 4 years ago when I became general counsel. It was kind of a grounds up effort. People came to me and said, can we get this started? And it was so consistent with everything we want to achieve, both as a department, but also just the way Yahoo as a company conducts itself, that I immediately said yes, and we got started. I don't know how much you know about Yahoo, but it literally started almost as a public interest project. It was literally a couple of graduate students, David Philo and Jerry Yang, putting together what they called Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. And it was just to make the World Wide Web more accessible to people, not originally a company. So it effectively started as a community service project in a sense, and that has continued really through our company value system and our structure ever since. They very quickly also started an employee foundation. It's not corporate owned or operated. It's literally operated by the employees and by an elected group of employees that gives out millions of dollars every year to different 501c3 organizations that are championed by employees who work with them and for them in the communities. We have a summer of service program that we do where we encourage everybody to participate in community service and give them all a day to do it. So our pro bono effort, in that context, was really very much consistent with our corporate values and a chance for the legal team to help advance them and do some good in the community. And it's really burgeoned since it started. Now we've got really about 60% or more of our legal team that participates on a global basis. It's truly a global effort in pro bono work. Every year we did last year more than 22 different projects. And we're continually looking for ways to expand it and make it more valuable. It's really it started off quickly like a rocket shot, and it's just continued ever since.
That's amazing. I was not aware of that history of how Yahoo came to be. There's certainly an obvious fit for pro bono here. But can you tell us a little bit more about why pro bono is so important to law department leaders, to the business community, to the legal department and staff, and to the communities you serve?
Well, I mean, there are many, many reasons. I think, the most obvious of which is there just aren't enough lawyers around to serve the communities that are in need. One of our first projects that we did was literally helping out 501c3 corporations that were part of Network for Good, which is an organization that we also helped to champion with a number of other internet companies in getting it started for volunteer work. And we got those organizations together and helped them with their charters and their policies and thinking through legal issues that they might have. And it was very obvious. I mean, even then, there's just so much need for legal services and legal advice, and not always the availability or the resources to bring them on. And so one of the things that we think is really valuable is, being in a corporation, we use our legal training for the benefit of the corporation, but the business of the corporation is not providing legal services, right? And so every so often, it's nice to be able to do something like pro bono, where you literally are doing a pure legal service and helping someone and realizing the value that, wow, that law degree or that law training, has that ability to do something even more and great, and to be a value in and of itself. It's also, really about, if you think about what laws are, I mean, they're really judgments about, what's right or what society values or what should be happening. And that's great, but often without legal help, people can't avail themselves of those laws or those rights. And so as lawyers and legal professionals, we feel we have a responsibility to help them take advantage of, what is out there and utilize the rights that they have. And then finally, I'd say, as a, from a perspective of why it's important from a legal perspective, in many cases, you come across areas of social injustice where reform is needed or where a change in the law is needed, and pro bono and legal services can be a means to achieve those ends, or at least to highlight areas where reform is needed and make the laws, in society better. So we see that as being a core part of it as well. From a business perspective, it's always good, obviously, to help the communities in which you do business, but it also is important to establish, your value system as both a company and as a brand. And so one of the things that's been very obvious to me as general counsel, as we've interacted with different communities, not just in pro bono, but also in the public policy arena, is, as legal teams, we're constantly establishing the values of the company from a public perspective, the litigation that we bring, for example, the positions that we take on public policy issues, the work that we do in the community, all are part of, building the brand and saying, what is this company about? What is its legal team about? What does it stand for? And that's important. That's important from a business perspective. It's important to consumers. It's important to those who have an interest. And it's important to the communities. And so, we just try to give back in whatever way we can. And pro bono is certainly one way that we can do that. From a law department perspective, one of the best things about doing this is it opens up opportunities for people to work together who might not often do it. So on a daily basis, my IP team may not be interacting all that often with our ethics and compliance office. At least I hope that they're not having to interact in a way that implicates the latter. But in a pro bono project, you can have people from different groups that are working together alongside each other, that are focused on a common goal, and they're getting to contribute. They're getting to know each other in ways that they might not otherwise be able to. They're getting to do some good together, and it's great for the leaders in the department who might get exposed to other talent in the group that they might not otherwise have exposure to. So it's a win for everyone, I think.
I think that answer leaves no stone unturned. All fabulous reasons to do pro bono. Looking internally, your department is a signatory to the Corporate Pro Bono Challenge initiative. Why is that important?
Well, it's important as a company and as a department. If you're going to make a commitment to pro bono, if this is something you really want to do, I think it's important to establish that both internally and externally. So internally, if you want people to participate, I think as a general counsel, you both have to make the opportunity available and endorse it, and wherever possible, participate yourself and reinforce it, to give people effectively the permission, right, to know that this is something that is truly valued and truly important as opposed to everything else they could be doing at any one time. Obviously, we want them to do the work of the company, but we also want them to feel like this isn't just something we say we do. It's something we are publicly declaring is important and that we're investing in and spending time on. From a public, standpoint, I think it's important also to show, as I said, what the company stands for and the values that we hold and how we embrace those. But also, frankly, hopefully to encourage others who might not have thought of doing pro bono work or might not have realized the company can do pro bono work, to get involved with it, and hopefully in some cases to reach out to us, and we can share some ideas and collaborate together if that's an opportunity. So I think it's important to set goals and milestones, and for people to feel like they're really supported and they have that obvious public evidence of commitment.
As you mentioned, the pro bono program began with you coming in as general counsel. So as a chief legal officer, what role do you play in encouraging pro bono in the department and the legal community? You referenced that a little bit with the corporate pro bono challenge, but how do you see your role in the department in terms of encouraging pro bono?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. As I said, the pro bono program started really as a grounds-up effort. I had begun a group we call the people team that within our department, which basically is in charge of things like mentoring programs and cross-training and CLE and other things. And some people from that group came to me and said, we want to start this pro bono program. As a chief legal officer, your job is always to provide some direction, but also to give people the space and resources when they come up with some ideas, great ideas on their own, to get stuff started. So immediately, from a most immediate standpoint, it was saying this is something I not only agree that we should do, but giving you some resources and some time and some funding to do it. The second thing is participating myself. So I participate when I can. It's not as often as I'd like, but when I can in the events, or at least highlight them in our department newsletter. We talk about them at our all hands. We make sure the company is aware of what we do. So we have, for example, a company meeting every Friday. We call it FYI, where members of the executive team take questions from the company. We also have presentations, and we make sure that our pro bono efforts are highlighted there, so people know that we're not just the lawyers. We're actually good Yahoos and good community members, and we're contributing as well. So it's a matter of highlighting what we do, giving the permission to do it, and then on an individual level, really making people know that I appreciate what they're doing, and recognizing that in appropriate ways. Whether it's we have this thing we call backyard badges. Backyard is our intranet, where you can basically highlight something on somebody's profile page and just say, hey, this is something that's really commendable. And we try to make sure that when we do pro bono efforts, that we highlight those things. Within the community, I try to support the Silicon Valley Law Foundation. I show up for many of their events. I think it's important for my employees to see me there, for others to see me there, and to show that this is something that we as leaders in Silicon Valley truly value, because there are obviously, we're very fortunate to work in the industries, in the tech industry. They're quite profitable. They do very well. It's very challenging work, but there are obviously people who don't have those advantages, and I think it's a responsibility of those of us who do to contribute back and show support for the organizations that to make the good work possible.
We'd like to, if we can, get a highlight of some of the types of projects that you work on. I think you said there are 22 projects. Obviously, we don't have time for them all, but if there are any particular highlights you'd like to talk about, we'd love to hear about them.
So we've done, it's interesting. We've done a bunch of different things. I mentioned the work we did with the 501c3 organizations. We've helped foster kids who were victims of identity theft, and helping them, process what they could do to protect their identity, protect themselves. We've done work with families that want legal guardianship of the children that they're caring for. We've helped senior citizens with legal documents that they needed assistance with. And then we've done other things like collaborate with some of the local police forces to train kids on how to combat and recognize and what to do about cyberbullying online. So we're always looking for that, where we can, an angle that not only is related to our community, but if we can find one that also relates to the internet. And that's a great example of one that we did that we're really proud of, because it was a good way to show off both Yahoo and the legal team, and also really help with a growing problem.
Aside from the Corporate Pro Bono Challenge initiative, what other goals have you set for the legal department's pro bono program?
Yeah, so we had a lot of discussions in the early days about whether we should, channel our efforts toward, pick an initiative, right, and channel our efforts entirely toward that or not, or whether to be more broad-based, whether it was going to be truly a global program or whether we were going to start it off slowly in the U.S., which is where we have, most of our legal personnel, not all of them obviously, but most of them. What happened over time is that as we got together and we set goals, what we've tried to really focus on is inclusiveness. So anyone who wants to participate is encouraged to participate, and we make the time and the resources and the energy available for them to do so, both through the I call it the people team, but we also call it the people committee. So that anyone who wants to participate, whatever level they might be in the organization, that expectation is there. And we discuss it at GC staff and make sure that inclusive is part of it. So far our focus has been more on including the most number of people within the department. I think as we go forward, I don't think we're going to pick any one thing to focus on, because there seems to be a genuine desire to experiment and try new things and work with other organizations. But I do want to make sure that we're continuing the level of engagement, that the number of hours that we're putting into it is remains at a level like what we've seen before, and also that we're rotating through the leadership of the pro bono program. So we've got some people who have been running it for a while, and we're grooming new people to become involved. So we build in new time, new talent, and give leadership opportunities, frankly, to people in the department. We've got, for example, a junior paralegal who does a lot of the work here, and that gives her a great profile, right? People get to see what she's doing and get to know her outside of her group, and that's great for her from a career standpoint. So we view it as just an opportunity to really engage as a department together and do stuff. Beyond that, we haven't set specific numeric goals, in terms of number of projects we want to complete, but we do try to make sure that we're keeping at least above 50% of the department engaged on an annual basis, and that people, and we poll people and we ask them regularly, is this something that you think is valuable and we should continue, and we continue to see that it's a gets very high marks for that, and that to me is part of why we have a legal team. It helps build that legal team feeling. So that's really something we're focused on.
For an organization like yours, inclusiveness means including people all over the world. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the global pro bono work?
Yeah, so some of the things that I've mentioned, we've done work, with students who are seeking immigration status to continue in school internationally. We've done non-legal, what I would call public interest work in supporting orphanages in the UK. We did some work in the Middle East, also in helping immigrants. We've had a few people ask recently about potentially doing some work on asylum appeals, political asylum appeals. So we're constantly looking for those opportunities wherever they may be that are appropriate to the local community and the local staffing. Obviously, our staffing is, as I mentioned, we're largest in the U.S., but we have some good-sized teams in places like Taiwan and Hong Kong, and in particular the U.K. and Ireland, and those are the places where we're looking for those opportunities, either to partner with local firms or local organizations and bring some things to fruition.
Backtracking a little bit in your history, how did you initially become involved with pro bono?
It's interesting. I was very fortunate after I graduated from law school. I worked for a law firm in Chicago. It was then called Sonnenschein, Nath & Rosenthal. It's now part of the Denton's law firm, where public interest in pro bono work was enshrined very much as a value. And it was a great way as a young associate to get experiences I might not otherwise get. Exposure to senior partners, for example, an opportunity to go into court and argue substantive motions, which I might not otherwise have gotten at that stage of my career. So it was a great way to get started. And two of the things I worked on that really if you will, got the bug going for me were, I did a political asylum appeal for a gentleman from Burkina Faso. It was a petition to the Seventh Circuit. We ended up getting his deportation order rescinded. Went back to the Bureau of Immigration Appeals, and they allowed him to stay, which was great for him and a tremendous relief, because he really believed that if he returned to his home country, that he would be killed there. And that, to me as a lawyer, having an opportunity to work one-on-one with a client who literally what he considered to be a life or death situation, and make an impact in his life was truly truly an amazing moment. It was one of those moments where I really felt like a lawyer, so to speak. The other thing that stands out is we did some work with the Legal Assistance Foundation of Chicago in the 90s on behalf of homeless children. The school board was taking money under the Stuart B. McKinney Act to bus homeless kids to their school of origin. The idea being, even if the family was traveling and homeless, that the kids would have some continuity in their education. The only problem is they weren't actually doing that. They weren't actually busing them to their school of origin. They were using the money for other purposes. So that's a good example of highlighting a social injustice where some reform is needed, and we managed to get that reversed, and I think probably to the benefit of all the kids who were participating. So, when you have that opportunity to give back and see in a way how you're tangibly affecting somebody's life and really making a difference, while, also from your perspective getting some really valuable legal experience and exposure to more experienced practitioners in the field, that's a win for everybody, and it really cemented for me what the value of pro bono can be. It's just a good microcosm of how you really can make a difference when you have an opportunity.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I've heard from many folks that have said something similar along the lines that when they've taken cases like that, that's when they most felt like a lawyer, not the day that they graduated law school or passed the bar exam or anything like that. So that's interesting. Are there any other projects maybe that Yahoo's taken on that have been particularly rewarding or meaningful?
Well, I think all of the interesting thing is when we do the surveys, we find that all of them are rewarding or meaningful for different people. I continue to believe that the things that we've done, because of my background, how I got started, the work we did with the foster kids who are victims of identity theft really just stood out to me. The work that we did on behalf of teens in the area of cyberbullying stood out, because you're helping people who can't otherwise help themselves, right, and who are otherwise really subject to some degree of abuse. And so, really, I think being able to say we have a legal team, and we have all this time, and not always time, but we have all this talent that we can channel to making a difference in the communities and really make an impact in somebody's life. And then seeing that happen is just it's really incredible. I remember after we did the event, the 501c3 event, which was that first one that we did, somebody came over to me afterwards and said, "I just had no idea that my legal training could be so valuable to someone." Because every day as a lawyer here, obviously we're dealing with big major corporate issues and helping the business make decisions, but they're corporate issues. They're not individual issues. It's not somebody. It's not you're not necessarily making a difference in some one individual's life. He said to me, this was just this eye-opening moment for me. I realized, I'm helping these 501c3 organizations, and they're going to go out and help other people. And it's sort of this way of giving back that I just never realized my law degree was so valuable in that way. And that to me was just a great moment, because it was, it reminded me of that moment I had where I felt, as I said, now I'm finally a lawyer. This is what it means. So that really stood out.
Looking forward, what direction would you like to see pro bono move?
Yeah, well, I'd like to. First of all, I'd love to see more people get involved. I think often, it starts out, everyone, certainly in the legal field, has heard of pro bono, knows about pro bono. Not everyone feels that they can get involved. Either that's not valued by their organizations as tangibly as it should be, or they just don't know how to participate, or they kind of aren't sure how to get started and where to get started. I would love to see more of the local bar associations pick some projects in some areas. Maybe pick cyberbullying, let's say, and organize some of the companies and law firms in that area, around that in a year, so that you can really channel some of the efforts and make not just an impact or a scattered impact, but a really concerted, focused impact. And I'd love to see some of the people that are getting the experience here and at other companies, come together and talk about how we can do more collaboratively. I think often these things tend to be done, by one company, maybe with a law firm or with an organization that they support. But we all have an interest in helping the communities that we serve, and we all have an interest in advancing the law and making sure it's more just. And I think it would be great to see more of that cross-company collaboration. I think there's a little bit of a reluctance to do it. I think some of it comes from the fact that obviously many companies compete against each other, but there are a lot of companies that don't. And I'd love to find ways to involve some of the smaller law departments who might not be as sure that they can, devote the time, or not as sure that they know how to get started, and maybe invite them to participate in some of the things that we, for example, do, as one of the bigger departments around. Because I just think it's everybody who participates in pro bono. I don't know anybody who's ever participated and said, "Well, that was a waste of time." That is a statement no one has ever uttered ever. So really, just giving more opportunities for people to do more and to do more together.
Good to hear. Ron, is there anything else you'd like to talk about that maybe we didn't think to ask, or is particularly important to you?
Well, I think we've touched on, I think, the things that are really important. I think that the thing that just stands out to me continually about pro bono, and particularly in the context of our department, is we are a really collaborative place. Everybody says that we're a team-oriented place. Yahoo, you can't get anything done here because things are global, projects are global, products are global, launches are global. You can't get anything done here without working in teams. Pro bono is such a great way to build teamwork amongst people who might not ordinarily work together. To build, to give back to the community, to represent the brand. It's such an opportunity, and in many ways an underused opportunity that I would really love to see more people and more companies get more deeply involved in it, for sure. It's interesting. For us, it's so core to our value system that we don't, as a company, I think about just how much as a company we're giving back all the time. But as a department, the last 4 years in particular, the work on pro bono have really cemented for us our value as brand builders and as ambassadors for the company, and that's something I really want to see continue. And I'd love for anyone who's interested in getting started, or might be interested in getting started a pro bono program, who could benefit from some of our experiences, to feel free to reach out to us, because we'd love to partner.
Ron, thank you so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed speaking with you.
Oh, thanks so much. It's always great to have a chance to talk about this.
Thank you for listening to our interview with Ron Bell, General Counsel and Secretary at Yahoo. We hope you enjoyed it and that you will join us again for future episodes of the CLO and Pro Bono podcast series. To stay up to date on our podcast, subscribe on iTunes or visit cpbo.org/podcast. And to learn more about the CPBO Challenge Initiative, go to cpbo.org/challenge.